Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun. Welcome, guys, to How the Frack We Got Here, a show that takes the news and events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. I'm your host and most Will Buchanan, and on this show, we simply are all about the facts. There are plenty of news stations out there that simply want to do anything short but inform you. Here at How the Frack We Got Here, that's all we believe in. We go up to the left, we go up to the right, we go up to the middle of independence. We go after all sides because there's more than one side of a story to everything, and you need to know it all in order to actually formulate your own opinion. And that's what we try to do here at How the Frack We Got Here. Thanks for listening, and hold on, it's gonna be fun.
Oh, there we go. All right, today's date, April 7th, 2021, and this is How the Frack We Got Here. I'm your host, most Will Buchanan. How the Frack We Got Here. We do take the events of the week and try to make sense out of it all. Before I do get started, this is a family-friendly podcast, so we do try to watch our language on here a little bit. Sometimes the words fly. It happens. But sometimes we may show some things that may be too young for viewers or a little bit on the graphic side, so viewer discretion is advised. Aside from that, welcome. All right. So let me go ahead and get into it. We are broadcasting live on Facebook and on YouTube and Instagram. So if you see this on Instagram, you're just seeing my mug right now. But if you do want to actually see what we're actually showing from Instagram, you can actually come on to How the Frack We Got Here on Facebook or on YouTube and be able to see what we're seeing. All right, so let's go ahead and get into it. Remember good old Matt Gaetz? Remember the guy who just, the one politician that pretty much said a big F you to everything? He was a Trump guy. He made fun of masks. Yeah, remember we talked about, he might be in some hot water with an underage teenage girl across state lines? Yeah, so apparently there was some other news about that just recently got broken by the New York Times, the same publication that broke out the story.
Probe of Congressman Matt Gaetz. The New York Times has a new report on Gaetz' efforts to head off that investigation in the final days of the previous administration. The Times' Maggie Haberman shares a byline in the story, joins us now by phone. So what have you learned about the attempt to get a pardon?
So, Anderson, the way it's been described to us by multiple people who are familiar with what took place is that Gaetz did two things. Publicly on Fox News, and I think he tweeted it, he said that the former president should pardon literally everybody. I think he mentioned the Thanksgiving turkey. He talked about Joe Exotic, because in his words, the quote-unquote liberal crowd was going to come after allies of the president. There was also a private conversation that he had with White House officials about a blanket pardon. He wanted one for himself. He was suggesting one for allies of his in Congress. We're not sure specifically who. White House officials thought it was bizarre and knocked it down pretty quickly. Now, remember, this was not what we're told is that White House officials did not know specifics about what Gaetz was under investigation for at that point. We don't know how much Gaetz knew, but we do know that at that point it was clear that his friend, this tax collector in Florida, himself was under investigation related to issues regarding young girls or young women. So all of this paints this picture of somebody who sought a blanket pardon, ostensibly because he thought he'd be targeted because of the former president. But now allies of the former president are looking back on it and questioning whether this was an effort to protect himself because he knew what was going on. So he has, I should just note, denied wrongdoing.
So you don't know if he for sure knew that there was this investigation, but he was aware, according to your reporting, that this person he was linked to, the tax collector, was under some form of investigation.
Correct.
And so the White House, they didn't take this seriously at the time?
The officials in the White House who learned of it thought it was very strange. They were perplexed by it. They didn't want to go ahead with it. They thought, among other things, it would set a bad precedent, and it died fairly quickly. Now, then President Trump was aware of this request. It's not clear whether he had a specific conversation with Gates directly, but it was not something that the former president pushed for Gates either, as far as we know.
And what does Gates' office say to all this?
Gates' office has acknowledged that he talked publicly about receiving a pardon. They have maintained that, he was not doing so because he was under investigation for this latest issue. And we will learn more as we go. But at minimum, it is of note that he was seeking this blanket pardon at a time when an associate of his was in legal trouble.
Okay, so let's look at it this way, folks. Matt Gaetz has already came out and said that, of course, he's denying all wrongdoing. That is the typical Republican playbook. Well, actually, it's a politician playbook if you think about it. That, of course, he didn't have anybody with him that was underage. He even, if you guys saw my last podcast where I showed the video of him trying to get an alibi through Tucker Carlson, fellow douchebag Tucker Carlson, and you see Tucker was like, no, I don't recall that at all. You ain't gonna put me on this bus with you. So what does this mean? Of course, we all knew about the blanket pardons, that when Trump was on his way out, we were worried that he would try to do something stupid like pardon himself, pardon his family, pardon his administration, passing out pardons like cigars at a child's birth, at the birth of a child, as you will. But again, this just makes the guy look more slimier than what he already is. Did he? I'm almost at this point where he's about to get caught with his hands in the cookie jar. And I, for one, am laughing about this because, again, it's always the party. Republicans, and keep in mind, Republican conservatives always look at it as the party of family values, probably the party of small government. And yet they are complete hypocrites. And I'm not saying the Democrats are clean either. I am just saying that when it comes to Republicans, they always seem to get caught. If they're against gay people, they're caught with a gay lover. If they're against, if they're strongly in marriage, they're caught with at least 3 side chicks and a baby on the way. Take your pick, honestly. But what does this mean? Does it mean that eventually Gates could be tried? There's a lot of smoke there, but again, I would not be surprised. I just think it's funny that it kind of puts him under the spotlight he didn't want. Because even Trump and almost every Republican right now is avoiding him like the plague. And honestly, that is funny as all get out. But move right along because we don't have a lot of news tonight, guys. Of course, we all know about Biden and his push for vaccines, and that he successfully got 100 million shots in his first 75 days in office. Well, Biden is actually coming forward with COVID as far as moving the deadline for all U.S. adults to be vaccine eligible.
Started our vaccination program. There were real questions how quickly we could get shots in people's arms. Well, by the end of May, the vast majority of adult Americans will have gotten at least their first shot. That's success. That success is going to save lives and get this country back to normal sooner. But it's not enough. On March the 11th, I announced that I was opening up all vaccination sites to all adults by May 1st. Many governors, Democrats and Republicans, responded and decided to beat that date, which was good. Thanks to their hard work and the hard work of the American people and the hard work of my team, I'm announcing today that we're moving that date up from May 1st to April 19th nationwide. That means by no later than April 19th, in every part of this country, every adult over the age of 18 or older will be eligible to be vaccinated. No more confusing rules. No more confusing restrictions. My message today is a simple one. Many states have already opened up to all adults. But beginning April 19th, every adult in every state, every adult in this country is eligible to get in line to get a COVID vaccination.
Now, don't get me wrong, I love that idea. I love the idea that we finally have a president that is fully aware of what needs to be done and is trying to move forward with vaccinations for everybody. I myself, I've had my first shot not so long ago, looking forward to the next one in a couple of weeks. And I keep on saying this because, again, for all those out there, the shot is there for everybody. I mean, if you don't get the shot, what's your alternative? Because there's nothing else out there. I mean, we are seeing more varying strains of the coronavirus. We are seeing still cases pop up, and people are walking around, especially in the South, like nothing has happened. We're all back to normal. And that's the one thing I did want to harp on for a second. Just the simple fact of the matter, guys, even though a lot of people are getting vaccinated, even though more people are making sure they hit their appointments, that's all well and good. But it still is going to be many months before we see the effects of those vaccinations. I mean, it's not going to be like, okay, everybody's vaccinated so we can go back to living like normal. No, it's not going to work that way. Because most people in the medical field will sit there and tell you, still wear a mask, still do social distancing, still avoid big crowds. And I know there's going to be a bunch of anti-vaxxers going to be like, well, if that's the case, then why are we getting the shot? Those are the same people I expect to have a very limited knowledge of how vaccinations and viruses work. The thing about it is, I don't want us to get into this lull of this false sense of security that if we all do this, then we'll all be fine. We should still remain vigilant. We should still look at it from a long game objective. Because keep in mind, we're not like New Zealand. New Zealand has 0 COVID cases. New Zealand, as far as I know, is the only country out there that is somewhat back to some sense of normal because they have 0 cases. They're not even wearing masks out there. But you best believe that their travel procedures are probably strict as all get out. But again, it's the fact that they did everything right the first time. We got spearheaded by an idiot. Fortunately, that's what happened. But I just don't want us to get into this whole thing. Like, I know a lot of companies out there are starting to look at bringing their people back in the offices. And I know for a lot of us that have worked at home, we've gotten comfortable. Let's be honest. We've gotten so comfortable about getting up, walking 5 or 10 feet or wherever your home office is, and you're working for 8 hours. But you're working with such a calmness because you're not in the office. You're, whether attire, whether you're PJs or not, I'm not judging. But you're comfortable. You're all right. Everything is all right with you. And a lot of people kind of gotten so used to it that it's going to be like, why can't I just stay from home? Many companies out there have figured out how to have their people work from home and still be productive and profitable. Now, does that change how some businesses may work? Yes. However, I don't see the rush in having people go into offices. Because I said, the company I work for is ran by idiots. Because they turned around and actually put in a date of June. They didn't say specifically. They just said the month of June we're looking at to start bringing people back into the office. And I think that's an adorable idea, but it's also a stupid idea. Because again, we shouldn't even be thinking about trying to bring people back into the office. We shouldn't even be thinking about trying to, I guess, get back to that old normal sense of life that everybody swears they keep missing. It's the point that we need to get these people vaccinated first. And that's why I like where Biden is going with this. Biden is not, he's not letting his foot off the gas about getting people vaccinated as much humanly possible. Because in their minds, whether it's June or July, because he said they said, if we do all this right by July 4th, we could all be, enjoying barbecue and the flag and all get out. And I'm sorry, July 4th has never been it has never been a day of independence for me. It has just been another day where I can just barbecue and have the day off. That's all it's ever been. that being said, I just think that a lot of people kind of get into this. We don't want to get into this false sense of security to where we forget, yes, we might be vaccinated, but we still have to beat this virus. Just saying. But moving right along, guys, I did want to talk about this because the vote, because of what's happening in Georgia with Brian Kemp signing that voter law in, which changed the way people vote in Georgia. Let's keep in mind, the bill that he signed into law was not because of voter fraud; it was because of voter turnout. Because more black people showed up in Georgia to vote it blue and to elect its first black senator. So again, this is just their effect of saying, okay, they played by our rules and won, now we can change the rules. Now, I say this with Georgia, but also, this is another heading. Lawmakers in 47 states have introduced bills that would make it harder to vote. 47 states. That's effing crazy. Especially with the simple fact of the matter, there are a couple of bills in there. Texas is one of them. Georgia is one of them. Arizona is another one. Keep in mind, Texas, Georgia, Arizona are all looking to change the way people vote. And trust me, this isn't Democrat. This is Republican. And it should scare people. I'm sorry. That's wrong. Scare is not the word I choose. It should worry people, because this is what Republicans are working on. Keep in mind, guys, 2022 is not that far away. Those are the midterms, which means that yes, President Biden and Madam Vice President Kamala Harris are safe for their first term. But for everybody else in the Senate and the representatives, 2022 is the midterms, which means that those people can be voted out and be replaced. You don't believe me? Look at a lot of these quackers they got put in here that literally get paid for doing nothing. That alone should scare people. So again, the slim majority that Democrats have could easily be wiped away if everybody, if even one vote changes. Now keep in mind, the Democrats have a nice little majority over the House. It is dead narrow in the Senate, with Madam Vice President Kamala Harris being the tiebreaker. So you can only imagine that, because the way voting was done. Keep in mind, Dorito, when he was still president, he dismissed mail-in voting. He sat there and said, "Don't vote by mail," because there's plenty of voter fraud. He tried to sit there and say that this election's already rigged against me. They don't want me to win. They don't want me to succeed. He already muddied the waters up enough, and to come to realize the election that we had just a little over a year ago was the safest election on human record. There were states that were literally counting, triple checking, just to make sure every vote was right. So again, guys, with that being said, we should be very concerned about what these lawmakers in 47 states are doing. Keep in mind, these are just local. This isn't even the most messed up part about this. Even as I say about states, about senators and representatives, this is the local ones. Your local city and state legislations that are pushing these bills forward. And I keep saying this every time. As much we vote for the legislative and judicial and executive branches, we still have to vote local, because what we do at a local level will affect us at the national level. And trust me, in my state of Tennessee, we elected idiots. I'm sorry, that was wrong. All of us did not elect idiots. All of us did not elect idiots. Really, it was just that a lot of us voted for smart people, but a lot more of us who were idiots voted for idiots. Marsha Blackburn being one of them. Governor Lee being another one. I mean, I can keep going down the list, but let's just be honest, they're all idiots. But moving right along, guys, I did want to get into the fact of the George Floyd trial, of the trial of Derek Chauvin. Simply put, because there is the witness that was actually in the car with George Floyd, and it seems that he actually may be pressed to testify. The witness's name, Mr. Hall, he might be pressed to testify.
Testimony that we heard today, but there was also something significant that happened before testimony even started. The judge today heard arguments as to whether Maurice Hall, he was the man in the passenger seat that George Floyd was in when police first approached him, whether Maurice Hall should have to testify in this case. And he made clear this morning through his attorney that he does not want to take the stand in this case. Kenneth, the judge seemed to want to split the baby a little bit here with the decision that he reached today, in order for them to hopefully reach a decision in the next few days.
Right, and we will find out later this week if the judge will compel Maurice Hall to testify. But it did appear in court this morning before the jurors walked into that room that the judge was going to side with the public defender and Maurice Hall and saying that just about any portion of his testimony would be self-incriminating. He went down the list there and asked, the prosecution, he asked the defense, he asked the public defender exactly, what part of the testimony would jurors likely hear or would they want them to hear. From the public defender, none, because she felt that her client would be exposed. And for the defense, even though Maurice Hall is listed as both a witness for the prosecution and the defense, it appears, Diane, that the defense wants Maurice Hall more because, as they mentioned in opening statements, Maurice Hall is the passenger in that SUV with George Floyd, and he can testify that he saw George Floyd take a couple of pills before officers walked up to the SUV, that George Floyd fell asleep before officers walked up to that SUV, and so he's a very critical character who can also talk about the alleged passing of that counterfeit bill and cup foods just before the deadly incident. And so at this point, Maurice Hall, we don't know if he will testify. Again, he appeared by video conference in court this morning because he's being held on an unrelated case at a local detention facility.
And so I want to go to Robert DiCello on this. Robert, how important do you think it could be to either have this testimony on record or have Maurice Hall not testify at all?
Well, I wish I could see the jurors' faces right now to answer that question. I can't get the feel that the trial counsel are getting on that issue. And there's a lot that goes into a trial. There's certainly a lot of feeling out what the jurors need or what one thinks the holes in their case are. But let's be honest and let's be frank here on this, conversation we're having. He was selling drugs, and he was selling drugs probably to George Floyd. So he's never going to testify. If he does, he's going to say, I take the fifth. And what that will do probably is create the appearance that George Floyd was engaging in criminality. Well, I think if we look at the evidence to date and the record to date, dating back 7 days ago, we're going to see George Floyd wobbling in his shoes. There he is, wobbling away as he's waiting to get in the grocery store. We're going to see George Floyd talking and crying out he can't breathe thereafter. And we've heard the causation issues. Did this act by the officer cause the death, or did the drugs cause the death? I mean, bringing the source of the drugs into the trial may help, but frankly, I think it's a zero-sum game for both.
Okay, so I cut off right there just because it kind of goes to something else. Yes, Mr. Hall was the passenger in the car with George Floyd at the time of Derek Chauvin and the other officers came forward, and it does become a question. Does he actually testify? Now, of course, again, this is all speculation. Allegedly, and I wish sometimes when you hear the news, they kind of need to use the word allegedly a lot simpler. Number one, allegedly he was possibly selling drugs. Allegedly that the counterfeit bill, which by the way has yet to be confirmed, was actually passed at a dollar store, was actually passed at a convenience store. At the same time, I keep saying this every chance I get. It doesn't matter if he was drunk. It doesn't matter if he was high. It doesn't matter if he was stone cold sober. If you put someone in a prone position and then you lean on them, and guess what? Being in a prone position with your hands tied behind your back, with your hands handcuffed, with your hands cuffed behind your back, makes it a little difficult to breathe. Beyond difficult. And so this is what the defense is trying to do at the moment. The defense is trying to do is they're trying to again bring in the X factor. Which the X factor all this is they're trying to say, oh well, he took pills, he was asleep, he was everything short. So the officer's actions Mr. Chauvin at this case, was not the reason that he got killed. This is what the defense is trying to do because that's all they can do. They can't character assassinate the witness. So now you have to assassinate the victim. In a way, you have to make it seem from a defense attorney standpoint that you have to make it seem like he led to his own demise and it wasn't the officer's fault. And again, that's the strategy. So I get the fact that Mr. Hill, based on whatever other case he has going on right now, may not want to testify because has anybody ever thought of just the fact of the matter is that whatever he says in this case may be used against him in his previous case? I can't blame him for not. I can't blame him for not wanting to not testify. And again, it's going to come to the judge as far as what they'll do, because as it was already announced, he is a witness for the plaintiff and the defense. But I cannot see, unless the defense has more than a reasonable justification to convince the judge to allow him to testify or force him to testify, it may or may not happen. But I just think it's crazy, the level. And I try to tell people, this is the levels that we go through when officers are on trial for black people. Because I keep on saying, when they kill black people, this is what they try to do. If they can't muddy the water on the witness, they'll muddy the water on the victim. Especially when three different coroners have already sat there and said that George Floyd died of asphyxiation. He did not die of drugs. He did not die of anything else. He died literally of affliction from being pressed on. That alone should tell the story. But again, we'll follow that as it goes along. Mitch McConnell, Turtle Mitch, Roscoe Mitch. How is this guy still in office? But then again, he's from Kentucky, so that says a lot. Decided that because he decided to throw his 2 cents in when Major League Baseball, because of their response to the Georgia law, pulled their All-Star game out of Georgia and will be playing at Coors Field in Colorado. Mitch McConnell decided to sit there and say, or I should say, warn corporate America about politics.
Applied the same standard they applied to Georgia. They couldn't have games in St. Louis because Missouri has a more restrictive voter law than Georgia, than the new Georgia law. What are they going to do about the Mets and Yankees? New York has a more restrictive voter participation law than the new Georgia law. Where does it end? So my warning, if you will, to corporate America is to stay out of politics. It's not what you're designed for. And don't be intimidated by the left into taking up causes that put you right in the middle of one of America's greatest political debates. You know, Republicans drink Coca-Cola too. And we fly. And we like baseball. This is a pretty competitive political environment in America, as I just pointed out, a 50-50 Senate. If I were running a major corporation, I'd stay out of politics.
Oh boy. Oh, yes. How is he still alive? Yes, I asked the very same doggone question. How is he still alive? I don't know, because apparently him and his wife are trying to avoid prison. But yes, Mitch McConnell decided that because of the backlash to Major League Baseball and simple fact of the matter of them pulling their games, which of course Major League Baseball and its All-Star Weekend does bring a lot of business to whatever city hosts them, which means a big boost as far as hotels, bars, and restaurants. Georgia, specifically Atlanta, was looking forward to it as it was being as it was being played in Turner Field. Hey, Mitch likes baseball. What? You're right. But again, Mitch McConnell, I'm just surprised that Mitch McConnell's going to sit there and say he's going to tell corporate America, hey, stay out of politics, but your money's still good. You know, hey, we drink Coca-Cola, we like to fly, we like baseball. I'm sorry, are you swinging for an endorsement deal or something? Because that's what it sounded like to me. No. It's amazing that, again, the hypocrisy of conservatives. Because keep in mind, they're the champions of small business. Not large business, because that's what they really are for, but the champions of small business. And they're telling large business, who, by the way, backs a lot of Republicans, hey, stay out of politics. Just pay us like you usually do. Be quiet, but send your hush money, and we'll get you taken care of. And it's amazing to me how Moscow Mitch does not understand that, again, money talks in the world of corporate America. And MLB, I have to give MLB credit for this, whether or not they decided to do this as a smart decision or as a strategic decision. Because trust me, movies that were being produced in Georgia are now being halted. At the same time, bars and restaurants are going to feel that pinch because we were kind of depending on this So we like going to Epstein Island. Damn, not Epstein Island. But again, this is what I'm talking about. It's the simple fact of the matter is, Republicans, you can't have it both ways. You can't sit there and say that corporations are people too, but when they start speaking like people, hey, you're a corporation. You're not people. Which one is it? But because you can't pick and choose when they decide to get in. Just like when Nike decided to back Colin Kaepernick. Oh, how many people burned their Nikes? Republicans came out and said, oh, Nike's taking a stand. Remember when Nike, I mean, there were so many different times. But you know what they never complained about? Pepsi and Kendall Jenner and Black Lives Matter. Quiet on that. Just saying. But not surprising. I do commit, like I said, I commend Major League Baseball for doing it. I think this should be a warning shot across the bow to any of those about these new laws. Because I keep saying this from Jump Street. If your vote didn't matter, they would not be making it so difficult for you to do it. They should be making it easier, and yet they're making it harder. Why? Because they don't like when you play by their rules and you win. Hence, why they're moving the goalpost. But also, moving right along, guys. Of course, travel is opening up, whether you like it or not. And I know a lot of people are saying travel. I'm like, man, a lot of people are saying travel, but I'm like, we are in a pandemic. I mean, trust me, I would love nothing more than take me and my girl and take her to the dream vacation that she wants. But right now, COVID is pretty much saying stay local, so we stay in local. However, there is a scare, and I do mean there's a scare right now with traveling, that apparently the words vaccine and passport get put to mind.
And the nation's airlines say leisure travel has come roaring back. Passenger volume pushing 1.5 million each day this week, 1 million more than a year ago.
It's nice that at United Airlines, we can see that light at the end of the tunnel.
With so many passengers, Delta today said it will stop blocking middle seats on May 1st. But will Americans need so-called vaccine passports, proof of vaccinations, to get into concerts, sporting events, or even travel? The White House says that's up to the private sector.
The government here is not viewing its role as the place to create a passport, nor a place to hold the data of citizens.
The governor of tourist hotspot Florida says he will forbid local governments or businesses from requiring vaccination proof.
You don't want to create separate classes of citizens based on whether somebody received vaccine.
With no national standard, states, companies, and healthcare providers are now coming up with their own options. New York State releasing Excelsior Pass for people to upload digital vaccine information and COVID test results. While overseas, many European countries, Japan, Israel, and global airlines are pushing their own vaccine passports, hoping to jumpstart tourism.
In the U.S., there is no vaccination database. This is what you get when you receive your vaccine. The question is whether this is enough for a potential vaccine passport.
I'm sorry. All I heard out of the entire thing was papers, please, papers. Could you imagine just wherever you land and there's a guy that comes up to you, papers, please, papers, and you are handing your travel vaccine, and you know this is not you are not vaccinated. I don't know why I'm giving the guy the voice. I'm just thinking in my mind that's how he looks like to me. But again, the whole idea of vaccine passports. It's crazy that we've come to this point in life that people want to travel so bad that you have to carry around a possible passport that says you've been vaccinated. And I'm not saying it's not a bad idea. I understand that people still want to travel. I understand that people will still deal with the restrictions and regulations, things of that nature. It is almost crazy that he sat there and said already that the U.S. does not have a travel vaccination database. And that so many other states are doing this, and I sit there and it's kind of scary from the White House and they're saying, well, it's up to companies. And I think to myself, that's not very comforting. Only reason I say that is because, again, now you're going to have a whole bunch of people trying to find vaccination passports. And let's not forget the scam side of things, where people are going to say, you have, trust me, scam artists are, if anything, they are relentless, especially when it comes to new things. Just like for the simple fact of the matter, when it comes to vaccination passports, you don't think that someone back there is going to think of a way? It's like, hey, in your state, it requires you to have a vaccine passport. You can actually sign up with us, and for $60, we'll expedite it for you. And that's how the scam starts. And that's just a scam artist. Imagine the real thing. It just feels like a nightmare, personally. But like I said, it's one of those things where I said I understand people want to travel. I would love to travel, even though I have a small fear of flying. But again, it's understandable to a certain extent, but even then, it's still questionable as all get out. But we'll, again, follow that story as it comes along. Another story which is actually causing some hot water, and I do mean that, especially in the LGBTQ community. Arkansas lawmakers were overriding the veto of the governor of Ohio. I'm sorry, the governor of Arkansas, because I don't know where Ohio came from. They basically overrid the governor's veto restricting transgender health care. What that basically means is, quote-unquote, Arkansas's Republican-led legislature overrode Governor Hutchinson's veto of a bill restricting health care procedures for transgender youth regardless of parental consent. This move comes in one day after the Republican governor rejected the bill while acknowledging that the lawmakers will likely overrule him. The House voted 71-24. This bill, known as Save Adolescents from Experimentation Act. Let me read that again. House Bill 1570, known as the Save Adolescents from Experimentation Act, outlaws such treatments as surgery and hormone therapy for transgender minors. The ban extends to people who are already receiving these treatments. The legislature was approved last month. And I keep saying this. I don't know what it is about conservatives. It's like they hate everybody. It's like, if you're not white and old, they hate everybody. I'm sorry, if you're not white, old, and semi-black, they really hate everybody else. Because I don't see the point of this. I still, to this day, don't see the point of this. If we've acknowledged that LGBTQ individuals have a right to exist and have a right to be equal as everybody else, cool. If we've acknowledged cisgender and transgender and binary and non-binary, and we've sat there and also acknowledged that everyone is allowed to be referred to by their set of pronouns. If we've acknowledged all of this, why are we trying to veto a bill transitioning transgender healthcare? Because that covers everything. It's not just the whole thing about getting the sex change operation, hormone therapy. It does more than that. It's the fact of mental health. It's the fact of overall care for those that report themselves as transgender. It's the fact of the matter is that just puts a slam on the door of them actually getting proper care. And it's messed up because, let's be honest, a whole bunch of probably sexually repressed religious individual nut jobs decided that they didn't like what was going on, so they figured the best way to do it was to basically impose their will through law on everybody else. Also known as the South. But again, it makes no sense. At the same time, I feel for all those individuals there because, like I said, I mean, they have a right to exist just as much as we do. But the fact of the matter is that law is unconstitutional as all get out, and it might actually be a case that could actually appeal that ruling and actually might be caught up in lawsuits up to the Supreme Court. We hope. But the last two stories I got, guys, because like I said, it's kind of been a short week, so we don't really have a lot. This other story, which I thought was interesting. Amazon acknowledges issue of drivers urinating in bottles in apology to congressmen. Basically because, let's be honest, Representative Mark Pocan actually fired a shot. I'll give it to him. He fired a shot at Amazon saying, quote unquote, paying workers $15 an hour doesn't make you a progressive workplace when you union bust and make workers urinate in water bottles. And of course, Amazon News, which is usually the spokesperson for Amazon on Twitter, sat there and said, you really don't believe the peeing in bottles thing, do you? If that were true, nobody would work for us. The truth is that we have over 1 million incredible employees around the world who are proud of what they do, have great wages and health care from day one. You know, the classics. Because they don't acknowledge the fact of what was going on. They don't acknowledge that, the multiple problems with Amazon. But they want to sit there and say, hey, we're paying you great and you get health care from day one. What do you hate about this? Oh, I don't know if you're an Amazon driver and you're stuck in a rural area somewhere and there's not a bathroom in sight. Yes, the drivers have to pee in bottles. Ask anybody that's worked for Amazon. You know what? Ask anybody that's ever delivered packages for Amazon. You'll be hard to find. You would be hard pressed to find. You would be very, very, very hard pressed to find it. And it's amazing that also where he sat there and again with this going back to the story again, they sat there and said it, and then they turned around and apology. They did an apology. Now, could it be because right now Amazon is awaiting the results of a union vote in Alabama, Bessemer, Alabama, in which the plant there is actually voting to create a union and join the I believe it's the warehouse retail union. I mean, it could be because of that. I think it's interesting because they sat there and said that we want to apologize, and says that we're going to look into that. How so? Most of those drivers in Amazon have well over anywhere from 120 to almost 300 packages a day, and they're only allowed. And this is inside information, guys. Those drivers have to somehow in a day setting get to Lord knows how many stops with how many packages, and have breaks and have a lunch break, and then also relieve themselves. A lot of drivers have to cut corners just to keep their jobs. Because if you ain't making the cut, trust me, Amazon will cut you. So again, I'm not surprised that, again, it's a representative that's pointing this out in Amazon, because we can't go after Jeff Bezos. He's not running the ship anymore. He's like, oh, it ain't me. I'm out. So again, I'm just not surprised when it comes to Amazon. It's just that, it's one blunder after another. It's almost like, well, of course, you don't really believe that our drivers pee in bottles, and they come back and say, yeah, well, that might be true. We're working on that. But again, speaking of the union, I did want to get to that. And at this time, the votes are being counted. However, the final results for that could be delayed. Reason being because Amazon and the retail warehouse department store union have an opportunity to pursue legal challenges. What that means is it depends. If the vote count comes back and says they want to form a union, Amazon could sue. Let's just call them the RW and DSU could sue back, and it's tied up in legal court. Now, again, I have been saying this, guys, from Jump Street. Unions work. They've been working. Unions got you 40-hour work weeks. Unions got you paid vacation. Unions got you breaks. Unions got you health care. Without unions, guys, we would be at the mercy of these corporations. And trust me when I sit there and say this, there is no such thing as corporate loyalty, folks. But if you work on the job until you died, the job opening for your job would be posted faster than your obituary. There's no such thing as corporate loyalty. So I don't expect a thing out of Amazon, because if Amazon is forced to deal with a union that's protecting its workers, it would change everything about Amazon. And even more so because there's a union plant at Bessemer, Alabama. If it goes through, that means that a union can form in every other Amazon, which means that Amazon could be held accountable, which is why they don't want this union to work as much as any other corporation. Because I've told the story many times about Michael Dell at Dell Technologies. He hates unions. I can't tell you how many times when I used to work at Dell that all the managers were scared to even say the word union because of the urban legend that if Michael Dell found out that anyone tried to talk about a union at any of his locations, he would shut it down, fire everyone, and move all that stuff to the next site. No lie, that was told to us as Dell employees, that if we ever mentioned it, or if it ever got back to him, there goes our site. But they want you to be loyal, right? All right. So with that being said, guys, like I said, we didn't have much stories for the midweek edition, but I did want to get to one of our feel-good news segments. Like I said before, on how the frack we got here, we do cover a lot of things that are sometimes doom and gloom, and a lot of things that sometimes make me want to lose my faith in humanity. But like I said, it's the middle of the week. Tomorrow is Friday Eve. We've made it through the worst of it, so we need a feel-good news story, something that restores our faith in humanity and makes us smile a little bit. And I thought this was interesting about this one, where a guy in Georgia, this restaurant owner offers the burglar a job. Basically, this restaurant owner saw it on camera that this guy, as you can see in the picture there, did break into the window and stole a register. He didn't really get a lot of money, but instead of actually posting this for giving it to the cops, the guy sat there and simply posted that, you know, if the guy wanted to, he sat there and said, quote unquote, our burritos are such a smash hit. We've got people breaking at 4 a.m. for their fix. So if you see our door looking hurricane fabulous at Wheeler Road, this is why. That's actually a pretty good way to spin stuff. And also he sat there and said, to the would-be robber who is clearly struggling with life decisions or having money issues, please swing by for a job application. There are better opportunities out there than this path you've chosen. Sharing his own personal number for the culprit to get in touch, and sat there and said, no police, no questions. Let's sit down and talk about how we can help you and fix the road that you're on. Wow. I'm going to be honest about that, guys. But the simple fact of the matter is that if it was me and it was my restaurant and I saw that happen, I'm sorry, I would have been like, you know what, you get to go to the police. You broke a window that I gotta get fixed. Oh no, dude, you're going to the police. But in his case, he was about, you know, for compassion and forgiveness, and I respect that, because not a lot of people in that situation would turn around and forgive the guy for breaking the window. I thought that was pretty cool, just for that simple fact of the matter. But again, guys, with that being said, that's really all that we got for this edition. So I do want to thank everybody for watching. Before I do get out of here, I do have some shameless plugging to do. I need to talk about my buddy Vaughn, who has returned to the podcast spotlight, if you will. My buddy Big BZA Dot on Facebook. If you're not his friend, you should be his friend on Facebook, Big BZA Dot. That's where you can find him. And once you find him, go to his videos, because apparently he's out of Facebook jail, which all his videos are live for you can be able to watch those. As you can see, he actually did do a RAF yesterday. RAF is pretty much like America's Funniest Home Videos, if done by WorldStar. It's always funny and entertaining. Definitely adult. Do not bring your kids. He is actually focused on bringing back Rhythmness very soon, which is a musical podcast in which he actually has to bring music, or ask us to bring music to listen to, and we just grade it. And the whole idea of Rhythmness is to basically bring you new artists that you've never heard of, and hopefully add to your musical repertoire, if you will. Of course, he also definitely does have the VST, which is a news podcast. That news can be music, video games, or trailers. I call Vaughn the king of weird trailers because he always seems to find some interesting ones. Some that I sit there and go, oh, that's cool, that's great. And some I look at that and go, I question our friendship. But still love them all the same. But of course, all of his shows can be found under his Facebook page at Big BZA Dot. Also, look up Big BZA Dot on social media to see exactly when he will be starting, as he'll be posting a schedule very soon. And of course, I still have my travel page, Uncle Obi's Adventures and More. Yes, your boy does do travel. I can get you wherever you want to go. Just tell me the date and destination and let me go to work for you. My goal is to basically, guys, give you the vacation that you can at a price you can afford, because that's the two things you want from a vacation. You want to go where you want to go, and you want to save money. Who doesn't love that? And like I said on Obi's Adventures and More, just give me the date and time you're trying to go, and I will bust my butt to get you the best deal possible. Because like Obi's Adventures and More, we don't just... And I try to avoid it. Dang it. I was trying to hold back that sneeze. I apologize. But Uncle Obi's Adventures and More, we just don't sell travel. We sell great memories. And apparently that was not what I wanted to show. Sorry, people on Instagram. You got a lot more than you bargained for. I apologize. But then again, like I said, on Uncle Obi's Adventures and More, guys, I do have a $100 referral. What that $100 referral is, guys, basically that if you know people that want to travel and you send them to me and they book travel with me, and as long as they book, you get paid. It's a $100 referral. There are no limits on that. So if you know 20 people or 200 people, then today's going to be a very good payday for you. And also, guys, let me not forget, for those that are watching on YouTube and Facebook, the link you see at the bottom of the description below, please copy and paste that into the browser. It will take you to my link tree that has the Facebook and YouTube pages for all of my shows at How the Frack Got Here, Get Bit, and the Off-Limits Podcast. Now, of course, my schedule has changed a little bit, because as you see, every Wednesday from 8:30 to 10 at night is the midweek review of How the Frack Got Here. Friday from 8:30 to 10 will be my weekly Get Bit podcast, in which I cover video games, anime, television, movies, things of that nature, which I usually do with a group of friends. Of course, on Saturday between 10 a.m. to noon is the weekend edition of How the Frack Got Here, to catch up all the news from Wednesday up until Friday. And of course, a little bit later on that night is the Off-Limits Podcast, in which is a podcast that definitely goes there. We talk about anything and everything, and I do mean anything and everything, because we talked about Christians aren't allowed in Montero, and if you got that reference, then you should go back and watch it. But like I said, definitely like all the groups, share and subscribe, guys, because like I said, I'm just trying to make this podcast great. And if you like this on Facebook or YouTube or Instagram that you're watching right now, please give a like, let me know that you liked it, and just share with somebody else, because the whole point of this show is just to inform people. We're not trying to change your mind. We're not trying to persuade you. We're just trying to give you all the facts and allow you to make up your mind for yourself. Simple and plain. So with that being said, guys, like I said, if you're able to get the shot, please get the shot or schedule yourself to get it. Please still wear a mask. Please do social distancing. Please do all the things needed to get these cases down, because we really should not be worried about trying to get back into the job site yet, because a lot of us like working from home, but a lot of us also like living longer. So again, let's do all the things that we should have done the first time in order to get to where we need to go. Aside from that, guys, like I said, thank you, essential people. I'm talking first aid responders, teachers, nurses, doctor's aid, nurses aid, the people that work in the hospitals, those that work in gas stations, those that work in grocery stores, those that are truck drivers, those that work in warehouses like Amazon, and those that work in logistics like UPS, DHL, FedEx, and all those other great places. Because you guys do a lot for us, and you don't get the recognition that you deserve to keep the lights on for the rest of us. Aside from that, guys, that's really all that I have for How the Frack We Got Here this evening. I hope you enjoyed it. If you're watching this live, thank you for commenting. And if you're watching this on the playback, please comment if it's a live. I still want to know you guys' points on a lot of things that I've said tonight. Aside from that, the whole thing about this point, like I said before, is about staying informed. We do a lot better when we're informed, because when we're uninformed, we get Trump. When we're informed, we get our first I messed the line already. We get our first Madam Black Vice President. That is a lot to say, and usually I nail it, but hey, we all can't hit home runs. Take care of each other, guys, and we'll get through this. Peace!